Hi, I'm the PC Expert Amateur, and this time we're going to take a look at how to add an SSD that's powered or hard drive that is powered by SATA instead of M.2. Now, you will need a SATA cable, and your motherboard should come with a couple of them. This one has two different kinds. There is the straight one, where both ends are straight, and then there is the other one that has a right angle connection. If you are going to have the cable run from the motherboard SATA slot, port to the device behind the motherboard, your best choice is always going to be to use a right angle cable. Honestly, I don't even know why they provide these straight ones, because in most cases this is going to cause the risk of damage to the cable and or the motherboard port for SATA. Now, when I say the port, what I'm referring to here are those four things right there. And I gotta hide so that it stops focusing on me. But those four ports are for SATA, and you'll notice there's kind of an L shape in the middle of each of them. And there is an L shape. Now again, have to hide my face. Oof. On those. So you want to match them up. Now, as always, make sure that you are using an anti-static band on your wrist or your ankle to make sure that you don't shock something to death on your computer. I have here two SATA hard drives that I use for backing up stuff for my computer. Well, not really backing up in the normal sense, but backing up in the sense that I'm taking them off of the storage on my computer to make room, because this is stuff that I'm not going to be using anymore, like these videos. Everything that I put on YouTube, I store somewhere else, because otherwise, even with 4 terabytes of space, I run out of space too quickly, which is why I now have a couple of 20, I don't know if they're both 20 terabytes. One of them is 20 terabytes, the other one is 6 terabytes. Which is why I have all this. That's why I have all this extra, because I run out of space pretty quickly. And people say, you're never going to run out of a terabyte. Well, they don't know what they're talking about, because unless you're just doing like regular office work or browsing or something like that, you quickly run out of space. Gaming, you will run out of space very, very rapidly if you only have a 1 terabyte SSD. I don't recommend that anybody have less than 2 terabytes if you're only having one drive. If you have 2 drives, then one for Windows or whatever operating system you're using, and then all your games get installed on the other one. But the more the merrier. I don't recommend running things off of hard drives, because they're much, much, much slower than SATA SSDs and much slower than M.2 SSDs. So the hard drive should be reserved for backing up and for storing stuff, not for active duty. And when you install this on your motherboard, what you're going to do is, according to your motherboard instructions, if it specifies you have to use one of these first, you're just going to take this and you're going to plug it in just like that. And now it can run to the back of the case and be connected to your SATA device hiding in the back, or maybe it's hiding underneath under the PSU shroud or the power supply area. In which case you may prefer to use the other type of connector that's a straight through, but again, I really don't like the straight throughs, because in my personal experience of using them on my computer that I have now, it was actually starting to cause my SATA port to be pulled away from the motherboard, and I was very afraid that I was going to lose that SATA port. Fortunately, I didn't. Fortunately, I was able to save it in time. It's okay, but yeah. If you don't have one of these right angle ones, I suggest you get them. Make sure you get it from a reputable maker of these things, because some of them are fake, or they're very, very poor quality. So the speed will be slowed down dramatically, resulting in you having hard drive speeds instead of SATA speeds. And oh, by the way, you'll notice that metal tab there. That is a lock for your SATA cable so that it doesn't pop out of the port on your mother drive. Same thing on the other side. You have another lock there. So when you want to unplug, you can't just pull and pull and pull. You're going to break something. You have to push down on that thing when you're unplugging to make sure you don't destroy something. Now, for the purposes of the rest of this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the straight through, because I'm not going to have any problems with possibly damaging my SATA ports, or actually my niece's SATA ports. So I'm plugging one into the SATA port on the motherboard. And now this is not something that you normally would do with the motherboard sitting out, unless you find it very hard to work inside of your case and you want to pre-install the cables on one side or the other side, either the motherboard side or the storage side. Otherwise, you're going to get your motherboard situated, you're going to get your SATA device situated, and then you're going to plug in on both sides. But sometimes, because, especially with small cases, like this tiny thing that I've got here that's a micro ATX, you might find that trying to connect a cable is not going to work with the motherboard installed. So you have on these SATA drives, you have two connectors, as you can see. There's one here and one here. Don't worry about this. These are those are not important for the most part, so don't even think about those. You have the smaller connector here, which is always in the same position on these hard drives, is for the data transfer. The larger one is for power. So you're going to have this cable running from your mother drive, and make sure you align that L shape with the L shape in this, and then you just plug it in just like that. And make sure you hear that. If you don't have a lock on here, you're not going to hear that click. If there is a lock, you make sure you hear that click. Don't assume that it's connected correctly, just because that click lets you know. You can do the same thing with this one, of course. Oh, I didn't hear a click. But it is connected correctly. So that's what you do. Now, I'm not showing you it just at the moment, but I will show you here, hold on, about the power connection. Alrighty then, so you're going to need, from your power supply kit, you're going to need the cable that has a connector like this. You can see the L again. And there are usually going to be 3 or 4 of these. In this one, it has 1, 2, 3. And on the other side, it should look something like that. So then on your power supply, you want to look at, let's see, you want to look at these and find the one. If it isn't marked on here, then look at the manual. But you can see here it's 1, 2, and 3, 4 for SATA. You're going to want to plug it into one of those. It doesn't particularly matter which one, although I would suggest, oh, sorry, that's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3. I would suggest the one that's farthest away. So this one will be the farthest away one. This is SATA 1. So no surprise that it's marked that way, since it's the one that's most difficult to reach. And you'll just see that tab there. You're going to line that tab with the hole right there. And just push it into place until it clicks. And so it's nice and solidly placed. Now, we're not, this isn't actually connected to power, so nothing's going to turn on. I just want to demonstrate what we're doing here. Right, so again, your SATA connector is going to be here. And then you're going to take your power connector. And again, you're going to look for that L shape and you're going to match it and plug it in over here. Now this fits tightly. It does not have a lock. Whereas this one's not as tight, but it has a lock. It's a trade-off. And once you've got it pushed in there tightly enough, it'll give a lot of resistance, at which point don't push too hard or you will permanently ruin the power connector. And then you install it. This should already be installed. In this case, this is a bay that is placed in the power supply area of my case. But it depends on what kind of device you're using and where there are spaces available to mount it as to where it's going to be in your case. I have another case that has a whole rack of hard drive bays. I have, and so on and so forth. So it just depends. This is what you're going to do. All right. So simple. Obviously, I'm doing it without the case and everything like that because I want you to see clearly the connections. It's going to be different looking than now once it's in the case. And that's it for installing a SATA device. Do make sure to look at your motherboard manual to see if there are going to be any conflicts between SATA devices and other devices. There may or may not be, depending on the model and how the quality of the motherboard you've chosen. That's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video in which I will be installing the graphics card.